This is The Sports Life.
And here we go with 2 seconds left. The pass predictably is over the middle, lateraled back, and Ross can't get away. It's back to Aller. He goes down, and the Bruins are on the field. They'll take a victory lap. The cadaver has jumped off the gurney and is dancing all over town. Backflips are being performed. Confetti is in the air. Amazing.
And welcome into the Sports Life. Will Team here along with Dalton Scheller. Amazing. Well, I think Josh Lewin, the voice of the Bruins, probably got that one pretty good. I've not heard cadaver used in a while in reference to a team. That was pretty good.
That was good.
That was good. But what a great – it just had to be a wonderful moment for those guys. Just had to be.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. And that's one of the beautiful things about this week's show, Will, is we're going to be celebrating everything that was euphoric for UCLA with Josh Lewin later on.
And it's always fun to visit with Bill Bender of the Sporting News because we got a lot of Big Ten storylines, so we're going to kind of pick his brain because what's in front of us could be pretty intriguing.
Yeah, most certainly could. And also what's in front of us is an awesome matchup in Autzen Stadium. And we're going to be talking with Joey McMurray of the Oregon Radio Network and Zach Osterman of the IndyStar to break down a top 10 battle between Hoosiers and Ducks coming up.
Well, sounds of the week. There's probably a lot of good ones here.
There most certainly is. We talked about what an upset and a moment it was for the UCLA Bruins. Interim head coach Tim Skipper talked afterwards about what the locker room looked and felt and sounded like.
After a win like that, what does the locker room look like after the game?
Disaster. There's water flying everywhere. There's music. There's guys that can't dance that are dancing. There's coaches trying to be dancers. It was exciting to be in there. I mean, it was some Saturday after games that have been kind of lonely and sad. And this will be the first Sunday we have where we kind of celebrate a little bit and enjoy a victory and then get ready for another tough opponent. But that locker room is probably still going in there. You think it's Mardi Gras or something happening.
It should be Mardi Gras. I mean, everybody gave up on this football team except the guys probably inside the building.
I think you're right. I think this is maybe the best story we have in all of college football in the country so far this season. What a neat thing it is. And, of course, there's the image, I think, burned in everybody's mind at this point of Jerry Neuheisel, who just became the offensive coordinator, being carried off by the players after this win against Penn State. It brought flashbacks because 11 years ago, when Jerry Neuheisel was a backup quarterback, he helped lead the Bruins to a win over Texas in a memorable win for UCLA. And Jerry talked a little bit about how special this one was and where it ranks for him all time.
Coach Neuheisel, you've been in some great moments as a lifelong Bruin. Where does this one rank?
It's up there. First thing I want to say is I love UCLA more than anything. And the kind of kids that you see that played on that field today is exactly why you love a place like this. We had 2 days to practice the new game plan, and all they did was believe. And we came out and played as hard as we could for 60 full minutes. Had to take a safety at the end because we messed it up a little bit. But, how can you not love college football when you have days like this? Special, special, special.
And how could it not be? And what's going to be interesting to see is can they move past this wonderful moment? Because the game in Michigan State's not going to be a cakewalk.
No, absolutely. And it is going to be interesting to see how they pick up those pieces. But I love how he kind of was saturated in the moment, the emotions and everything that was that win. And it is. As fans and workers in college football, that is why we love college football, for moments and opportunities like that.
2 days. Why waste the whole week?
You're right.
Go to the beach. You're in California. Take a couple of days off. You only need 2 days.
He's got a surplus of time moving forward. He could show what he could do.
And these coaches say they're so busy.
That's right. Well, as UCLA rides the high of that victory, on the other side, Penn State really trying to find footing again, dizzied a little bit. Head coach James Franklin reflected on the tough day in Pasadena for Penn State.
Obviously disappointed with the result of last week's game. Did not live up to our expectations or standards. Over our time here, we really haven't had those types of games. So obviously disappointed, and when that happens, it forces you to look at everything from the top down, starting with me.
Well, it's just interesting. You go back to the Oregon game. If they don't throw the pick and they get in and they beat the Ducks in overtime, we may not even be talking about this sort of thing. But at the end of the day, that's why you played. They didn't get it done against Oregon and just hit a buzzsaw, obviously, against UCLA. But at the end of the day, these two losses may absolutely destroy their season.
No, I think that's fair to say. I mean, they have to run the table if they want a sniff at the playoff now. They have no more room for error, period. And it just wasn't one anybody was really aware that could be a trip-up spot. The trip out to UCLA, I mean, that really stunned the college football world. Also, coming off of a win, if we flip over to Lincoln, Nebraska, head coach Matt Rule just got the Huskers to beat Michigan State the week prior. Now they get ready to take on a Maryland team as Maryland's trying to lick their chops a little bit after suffering their first loss of the season. But there's an interesting tie between these two head coaches, Matt Rule and Mike Locksley. Matt Rule explained how they go way back.
Yeah, I was I don't know, maybe 14, 15 years old, and Coach Locksley and my cousin Craig were teammates at Towson with Rob Ambrose, who was the head coach at Towson for a long time, and they were in my cousin's wedding. So I was 14 years old trying to get Coach Locksley to give me a beer at the wedding. He did not, and I did not. So.
I can't believe it. Come on, I bet he did.
Right. I love the clarification at the end, just to make sure everybody understands.
Yeah, okay. Matt, we don't care.
Yeah.
It's okay. What a great story. What a great story.
It certainly is. And look, we talked about later on in this show, we're going to be previewing the big matchup out in Eugene. Oregon, Indiana. We're going to have all sorts of coverage about it. Indiana head coach Curt Cignetti, though, the walking soundbite he is, actually had some very high praise for the Ducks and the Ducks head man, Dan Lanning.
Probably one of the most impressive young coaching phenoms to come around in a while, I would say. Haven't been in this game for a little bit. They're a great football team. Looking forward to the challenge, confidence in our team.
Well, for Coach Cignetti, that is the most positive I've ever heard him when he talks about the other guy. That's pretty amazing.
No, I think you're right, and it really goes to show how many people have such a great opinion on Dan Lanning. And, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Oregon does not lose. They have yet to lose a Big Ten game, as we'll talk with Joey McMurray in a little bit about.
And the thing I think about, they have money, they have good players, they have a great fan base, and I love that stadium they're in. But at the end of the day, though, when you keep changing like quarterbacks, for example, when you're trying to integrate new people into an offensive system, they seem to be able to do that seamlessly, which is amazing to me.
Agreed.
Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, we're going to talk about the great upset, UCLA over Penn State. It's all coming up in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate, painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, means you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay.
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, one thing that got everybody's attention last week was what UCLA did at home against 7th-ranked Penn State, winning it 42-37. And joining us to talk about that moment in time is Josh Lewin, the voice of the Bruins. Josh, thanks for joining us. And obviously the struggle 0-4 start has been pretty well documented. But can we talk just a moment about the joy of last Saturday?
Yeah, I would talk about that for a day and a half if you want, because there was a lot of doom and gloom, and rightly so. You know, they lost by 25 at home to freaking New Mexico. So, you know, I mean, you lose your coach in large part because of that. You lose both coordinators, and that's the recipe for 0-12. And here comes a top 10 team. You're about a 4-touchdown underdog. The guy that took over as OC did it on a Tuesday night of that very week. Has never been an offensive coordinator in his life. So pretty strong headwinds, let's put it that way. This is about the most unlikely outcome you could have ever had.
Well, that guy ends up being Jerry Neuheisel, and there's been a lot of stories since. And, of course, the photos just kind of have been embedded in everybody's minds of him being carried off by the team, and it brings back to the time where he was a backup quarterback and willed the Bruins in a comeback over Texas and was carried off. The Neuheisel story, what can you tell us about Jerry as a person and what makes this extra special for him and the Bruins?
Well, he's the one guy that's never given up on the university, and let alone the football program. He just really, really loves being part of it. And, the only time he went away was to follow the guy that was his OC, Noel Mazzoni, when he was off at Texas A&M. And now Noel's coming back to kind of be the wind beneath Jerry's wings because, again, he's never done it before. But, yeah, super positive guy and, looks like sunshine from Remember the Titans. He's got the long blonde hair and the whole thing and just his very upbeat demeanor, which is pretty infectious. And, when you're 0-4 and you're a laughingstock, it takes a pretty special personality to just hang in there and still be that, kind of burst of sunshine when everybody else is raining on you. So obviously he knows what he's doing. He installed a great game plan. He outdueled and outwitted the highest paid defensive coordinator in football who's done this for a minute. So just a remarkable, remarkable story.
Well, Josh, is there more in the tank for the Bruins? Are they a one-hit wonder, or are they just getting going?
Yeah, well, that's the question. I think there's a thought that, they hit their one high note. If you remember in Back to the Future when Marty McFly landed the one miracle punch on Biff Tannen in the parking lot. Like, that's, wow. I mean, that's great that he did that, but you'd never expect Marty McFly to beat up Biff ever again, right? So I think there's an element of that maybe they've just kind of done their one great thing this year, and but the guys don't want to rest on that. I mean, Jerry and the interim head coach Tim Skipper are preaching, hey, let's keep the pedal down here. So this really becomes, in what seemed like the most random game of the year, frankly, I mean, for both teams, this is kind of a watershed now. I mean, have they found their mojo? Are they going to be the greatest turnaround ever? Is this the beginning of something incredible, or was it, like you say, a one-hit wonder, and it was just kind of the one shining moment of their season, and they trundle off to a 2-10 record or something like that? So we're going to find out everything about that this weekend.
Well, you mentioned the interim guy, Tim Skipper, and I think a lot of the stories have been about Neuheisel, and rightfully so, but not many people have talked much about Tim Skipper. Can you share some insight onto his background and what makes him right to lead this charge during this period?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how you kind of fall backwards into stuff sometimes, right? I mean, this is a guy that I would say 5%, maybe 10% of the players on the team knew was even in the building. I mean, he was just kind of a wind beneath the wings guy for Deshaun Foster. He was an analyst. And, guys were literally Googling him when they heard the news that this is your new head coach. They didn't even know he was with the program. So hiding in plain sight, he's done it before. He picked up for a Fresno State team that had to make a pivot and did very well. He's another very upbeat guy who's got an NFL pedigree, and certainly has done some things. Like I say, it's at a smaller program at Fresno State, but I guess everybody's trying to just kind of recenter themselves now. And I think what both Jerry has done and Tim Skipper have done is say, look, let's not try to outsmart and outwit ourselves. Let's not do crazy, really in-depth, funky plays here. You guys are all talented. You're talented enough to be here. Let's kind of slim the playbook, dumb it down, just go out and have fun and see what happens. And so far, they probably should have beaten Northwestern and didn't. That's going to come back and bite them if they end up finishing 5-7 or something. But I think just the rampant positivity is something we haven't seen around here in a while.
Josh, if we go back to that upset win over Penn State, of course, the Bruins leapt on Penn State early, pounced on them early, got that lead. I'm curious, as you went through the different stages of that game, what was the point that you, and maybe UCLA Nation as a part of it, a byproduct of it, started to actually believe this was happening?
I believed it at halftime when it was 27-7, but then a couple times when Penn State got back to within a touchdown, and especially when the Bruins went for it on their own 32 and turned it over on downs with 2 minutes to go, leading by 7, you're thinking, well, okay, water is finding its level. This was a nice story. So Penn State kept putting itself in position to just go ahead and wrangle control back. And the fact that they never did, I didn't relax in that game, Dalton, until, they made the stop on 4th and 2 with 20 seconds to go. Or however long it was. I mean, it really was coming down to the wire like that. And, great job to step out of the end zone for a safety at the end. That was a very smart play. And to dance around for 8 seconds before you actually step out, that made sure that Penn State could only run a couple plays instead of 3 or 4. So, not until that final whistle blew did I really believe it. But it was something. I mean, there were only 40,000 people there, but going to be 120,000 to claim they were.
I bet you're right. I bet you're right on that one. I want to go back to the Tim Skipper part just for a second. You talked about people Googling him. I'm just wondering, what did Martin Jarman, the AD, say when he said, here's our new guy? How'd he sell it?
Well, I think it was just, here's a guy who's not Deshaun. I mean, there are only so many guys to pick from on the staff. I mean, you got a defensive coordinator that you just got rid of, an offensive coordinator who had never been an offensive coordinator, and you eventually end up replacing him with another guy who's never been an offensive coordinator. So I think he just knew there needed to be some experience, and you're not going to go out in the middle of a week, even though it's a bye week, and just get some rando off the street. So he, like I say, he kind of backed into it, I think. I mean, Tim was the one guy on the current staff, even though it was in an advisory role, that had actually coached some college football before as a head coach. So, I think he really was the only viable candidate if indeed you're going to fire Deshaun 3 games in. And now there's a big search, and they'll hopefully find the next Kurt Signetti or whatever, somebody who is kind of got their stock on the rise. I think they're done with going and getting the big name like Chip Kelly, because they just got so burned by Chip. But we'll see where that search goes. And I think Tim Skipper, if he doesn't stay as UCLA head coach, and he certainly put himself in the conversation now, at least he's got a heck of a resume bullet point, and same for Jerry Neuheisel. I mean, Jerry's going to be a hot commodity, when everybody knows his story now, and they'll kind of keep an eye to make sure that wasn't just a wrinkle, that he can actually continue with this. But nobody ever would have been thinking the hot new coordinator or hot new head coach in college football is going to be Jerry Neuheisel, but maybe they do now. So it's an exciting time for a lot of the staff.
Final question here, Josh. You're going to East Lansing to play I think a team in Michigan State that's kind of desperate to get back on track. What's your thoughts about this one?
Yeah, I mean, UCLA can't have the whole hangover thing here, Will. I mean, they can't just roll in there thinking like we got all the headlines now and we've squared our shoulders and we're good. I mean, Michigan State gets paid too, so to speak. And yes, you guys have a tremendous coach in Jonathan Smith, who we're all familiar with from his time at Oregon State. And I think you said it exactly right. You guys are at a bit of a tipping point in your season too. So the Bruins are going to get a hell of a hit across the face here. They know that. I'm a little wonky about the start time. I mean, it's a 9 a.m. body clock time start for UCLA, but then again, they practice at 9 a.m. every day. Maybe they're okay, but tough place to go in and win, no matter the circumstances. Personally, I can't wait. I haven't been to Spartan Stadium in forever. Can't wait to see you guys.
Well, see you on Saturday, Josh. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Be well. Thanks so much for the call.
So there are some of the thoughts from Josh Lewin, the voice of the UCLA Bruins, as they finally had a really nice moment in the season that's not been full of a lot of fun. Well, the big game in the country, that's an easy one to pick. It's number 7, Indiana, number 3, Oregon, and the game is in Eugene. We're going to talk about that one in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce.
If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, at Oregon, there is a big football game about to take place. It's Indiana, and it is the Ducks. Is Indiana for real? Well, we know Oregon is. At least we think they do. And so at the end of the day, this is going to be a major game for both programs. And to help us sort this out is Joey McMurray. He's the host on the Oregon Radio Network. And Joey, thanks for joining us. And maybe we'll just start off by me asking you, how are things going in Eugene?
Well, I think it's lived up to the billing. I mean, it's safe to say that the broadcaster sounds good when the team is good, and the team's been pretty darn good. I mean, you think about taking care of business at home, but also taking care of business on the road. Autzen Stadium is special. There's just no other way to describe it. And that certainly is good for a touchdown or two maybe at home. But going on the road's a different animal, and the Ducks certainly proved they can go on the road into a hostile environment and be successful with the victory over Penn State, regardless of what happened when Penn State had to go on the road to UCLA. That was a big-time win. And the Ducks have, I think, just kind of checked every box. There's always things you can improve. Don't get me wrong. Every coach will tell you there's things to get better at. But the fact is that Oregon handily beat some inferior teams at home and on the road early in the season, and then won just a absolute heavyweight fight in Happy Valley. And that I think says a lot about where Oregon's program is. They're taking care of business, doing what they're supposed to do against teams that they should beat. And then they can still play a full four-quarter game, go into double overtime, and win a contest.
Well, you talk about that double overtime, and you talked about the environment it was there with the whiteout at Penn State, but the environment that's getting ready to be at Autzen Stadium with a top 10 matchup with Indiana coming to town, how would you explain or even forecast what it's going to be like in Eugene for this top 10 battle?
Oh, I think it's going to be an electric environment. I mean, ESPN's bringing game day back for a top 10 matchup, and they've done it more lately in the new renegotiated TV era that we're in, but the truth is it is still kind of rare for ESPN to bring game day to a site where another TV network is broadcasting the game. CBS has the TV broadcast for Oregon, Indiana, yet ESPN's bringing game day here. And I think that says something about how good this matchup is. And then you look at the statistics on the field. I mean, the balance that these two teams exhibit, I think sticks out. It's two teams that in both offense and defensive efficiency and in total offense and total defense, they're both in the top 15 in the country. The balance that these two programs have, I think, makes this a really intriguing matchup. And, I read all of the same Twitter posts and pundit thoughts that everybody else does. And the fact is that a lot of people who know an awful lot about football think that this might be the two best quarterbacks in the country facing off this weekend, which is pretty special to think about a guy like Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza who have kind of similar stories. I mean, you want to talk about the narratives going into this game. Dante Moore doesn't have great success at UCLA. He elects to transfer, shows some maturity, sits behind Dylan Gabriel last year, now is having a Heisman type of season for Oregon football. Fernando Mendoza goes to a program like Cal, does find some success, transfers to Indiana to play for Curt Cignetti, who has done an amazing job at Indiana. You talk about two coaches that have really put their programs on the map quickly. Dan Lanning and Curt Cignetti are both part of that conversation. Two quarterbacks that are very similar, two teams that exhibit a lot of similarities, at least statistically, heading into this matchup.
And both those quarterbacks have stepped up to the moment time and time again. But, something that's interesting getting ready for this one, if you pour through the Oregon game notes, you'll find that plastered on the front page, 23 straight wins for Oregon in the regular season. It's just year 2 in the Big Ten Conference, but the Ducks still have yet to lose a Big Ten game because the loss to Ohio State, of course, was in the postseason. But this streak, what is it that Dan Lanning and the Ducks have that's proven consistently how good they are?
Well, I think Coach Lanning's an excellent motivator. That's certainly been part of the national narrative. A lot of people think that he's maybe the best motivating coach around right now, at least the one that we see. And part of that, I will admit, is that he is pretty open. I mean, our great crew produces the Ducks versus them. It's essentially a documentary campaign that you see every week. But I'm the first to say that I appreciate how much he lets people like me even be around, right? And we always kind of know what's going on, and we get the chance to share some of those more intimate stories and moments. And that includes a lot of his motivating talks and the amount that he lets his players talk to each other in front of the entire team. That's kind of the intangible that's hard to quantify, but I do think it matters. The other side of it is that he's assembled a roster that's very, very talented. And I think that the way that he has built his program is really a reflection of modern college athletics at its best. You still have great recruiting classes filled with freshmen that have developed. Oregon's defense is just littered with those guys. You think about Mateo Uiagalelei, Tatum Tuioti, guys coming off the edge, rushing the quarterback. Those are development players that are now in their third year in this program that were highly touted recruits. But then Dylan Thieneman comes in from Purdue, right? An All-American caliber safety who decided to come to Oregon because he saw how much Oregon developed talent. I think that sort of roster building philosophy coupled with great coaching has really paid dividends for Oregon in the regular season. Now, certainly, though, you want to get it done in the postseason. The regular season matters. The postseason matters more. That's the next step for Dan Lanning and this Oregon team. But you're right. Whoever gets Oregon in the regular season now, that will be the first Big Ten regular season loss that Oregon has suffered in the history of the program since the Ducks are still new to the Big Ten Conference.
That's awesome. Last question, Joey. Oregon, Indiana. Where do the Ducks have advantages heading into this matchup? What do they need to make sure they do to come out with a win?
I routinely come back to Oregon's depth, particularly at running back. I thought that was a difference maker on the road against Penn State. The fact that Oregon has so many different weapons at that position. And then I think Dante Moore is just so good at taking care of the football. Every coach will tell you the turnover margin really matters and explosive plays really matter. And the fact is that if you can take care of the ball on offense and you can hit some explosive plays, you're going to have success. I'm not saying Oregon necessarily has the quote-unquote advantage in that category, but I'm saying that Oregon has done a really good job in those two key categories this season. I think that the depth, though, can be a real weapon for Oregon. I mean, Indiana's deep too, but the Ducks have made no bones about it. They're going to keep rotating guys. And I do think that really matters over the course of, one, an entire season, but two, a game that figures to be as physical as this one.
And Joey, as always, thanks a lot for joining us.
Good to talk with you.
Well, thanks to Joey, we now have heard a little bit of what you might expect from Oregon this coming weekend. And with that, we're going to bring on Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Star, the guy who covers Indiana Hoosiers. And it's fair to say, I think, Dalton, Indiana has been maybe the surprise team in back-to-back years so far. Because who would have thought they'd still be good? Nobody's beaten them yet, but they get their greatest test ever, obviously. 7th-ranked Indiana, 5-0 on the year, going out to face Oregon, number 3 in the country. That is always a tough place to play no matter who's got what. So I guess, Zach, you know these guys. And maybe our first question to you is, what are you thinking about this? Does Indiana have a real shot here?
I think Indiana does. I don't think, you want to be careful not to color sort of the Oregon win at Penn State after the fact. We all know how difficult Beaver Stadium is, especially in that environment. And I don't think, Penn State suddenly became less talented over 1 week. I think UCLA maybe is kind of winds up being its own thing in the complexion of their season. I think this is the toughest team Indiana's going to face this year, but I do think there are ways in which Indiana can at least give itself a foothold in this game. I probably wouldn't go so far as to predict Indiana to win, but I think there are some intriguing elements to this game, both in terms of the matchup and in terms of the narrative that maybe we've not seen from a Curt Cignetti Indiana game yet through this first sort of year and a half of his tenure. And I do think there are ways Indiana can give itself that platform to at least kind of, put a really competitive 60 minutes together in Eugene.
Zach, I want to kind of piggyback off of what Joey had said in the conversation before we got to you, where he laid out the quarterback battle and said, look, a lot of national pundits that are neutral are saying these are two of the best quarterbacks, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country at this point, with Dante Moore at Oregon and Fernando Mendoza at Indiana. What's worked so well for Fernando Mendoza and the Hoosiers?
Yeah, I think with Mendoza, it's, as much as anything, it has been getting him comfortable in a team that was probably better sort of activated to make the most of his strengths. And I think at times he still, he said himself after that Iowa game, there was some pressure early and he probably fell into some bad habits. Last season at Cal, he got sacked. I think the number was 41 times in 12 games. And so you got the sense, for just as good as he looked, there was probably some stuff that he was really never going to be able to do at Cal. And there were probably some times when he got happy feet, and even through the spring and summer, a lot of what Curt Cignetti was talking about was have patience, trust your protection, make all the reads, those kinds of things. I think for the most part, we've seen Mendoza really kind of start to capitalize on a lot of that, start to capitalize on the chemistry with, a pair of all Big Ten caliber receivers behind a much better offensive line, in an offense that's running the ball better than it was a year ago. Obviously, that slowed down a little bit at Iowa, although Indiana still had some pretty meaningful gains on the ground in that game. And so I think just what you're seeing is a good quarterback who's probably improved from a year ago. And I'm not trying to, this is no slide on Cal, but probably playing in a better offense, frankly, just better line in front of him, better skill pieces around him. And, you think about that Illinois game is probably kind of the gold standard for Mendoza right now. That's what he's capable of when he really settles in, when, again, he trusts his protection, when he shakes off pressure, and he just kind of, delivers the sorts of performances Indiana needs to win. And I think the question, if you're Indiana, is can you do it in a setting like this? Oregon is really good. Oregon is really athletic. Oregon is really deep, which not a lot of teams are at the level that the Ducks are anymore in college football. And obviously you're doing it in a very difficult environment, albeit one that Mendoza has played in before. It's a fascinating test for him.
Real quick, Zach, obviously Indiana surprised everybody the way they beat Illinois with that score. What do they have to do to pull off their second surprise of the year?
I think the first thing is, as much as you can, negate Oregon depth. Like, one of the real features of this era we're in right now with the portal and NIL and revenue sharing is it is much harder for high-end programs to stockpile the depth that we were once so accustomed to. When you think about, like, every year it seemed like Alabama would churn out new All-Americans at tailback, wide receiver, left or right guard, defensive tackle, and corner. That depth is just so hard to build anymore, even if you've got the money, because somebody else has the money too and also has the opportunity. And Oregon is one of the few teams, and I know they have considerable resources, but I also think this is reflective of the culture Dan Lanning has created there. Oregon is one of the few programs that has been able to build and sustain that depth on both sides of the ball, and I think crucially along that defensive, maybe that front six. You have got to, I think, if you're Indiana, negate that depth as much as you can, chunk plays offensively, and short drives defensively. Depth doesn't do Oregon any good if Indiana is sustaining drives when it's got the ball and it's tearing off some big runs, some meaningful pass plays. And if all that depth at your skilled positions, wide receiver, running back, tight end, is standing on the sideline watching because Oregon's not putting together drives of more than 4 or 5 plays. I think Penn State's probably got more talent in its defense, for example, than Indiana does, but I don't think Penn State's as disruptive in the front six defensively as Indiana is. Certainly the numbers would bear that out. We'll see if Indiana can carry that disruption over against an elite team in a really difficult environment. But I think that as much as Indiana can remove Oregon's depth advantage from the equation, I think that's got to be where this starts for Indiana. And then from there, I think it is keeping Mendoza's pocket clean, getting him comfortable, and getting a really, really good day out of him.
Well, as always, Zach, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, as always.
Well, there you go. Some of the thoughts from Joey McMurray from the Oregon Radio Network and Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Stars. They kind of lay out what they think is going to happen in probably the nation's biggest game this weekend, Indiana at Oregon. There's another pretty big game taking place in the Big Ten. It's Ohio State going to Illinois. And Bill Bender from the Sporting News will join us next to talk about that and a couple other nuggets. But first, a break.
So, I got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Well, joining us on the show now is Bill Bender from the Sporting News, and we've asked Bill to talk about a litany of things, one of which is this game, Bill, coming up in Champaign. Number one ranked Ohio State going into Illinois. Of course, Illini, they believe they have one of their better teams in recent memory. So what do you think about this one?
I think they're going to play for the Illabuck, which is one of the most underrated trophies in all of college football. It'll be the test for Luke Altmaier, who's played pretty well. Now, that Indiana disaster aside, that wasn't on him. How do you go at what has looked like to this point will historically good Ohio State defense, allowing 5 points per game, maybe 4 or 5 first-rounders on it. I think that national championship lifted a weight off of Ohio State, and forgive me for saying it, it's kind of put that weight on everybody else that faces them. They are crushing people.
Well, Bill, there's a lot of topics we got to tackle in a certain amount of time here, but you brought up the Illabuck, and I'm not sure if everybody's aware of the Illabuck, how great of a trophy this turtle is that Illinois and Ohio State plays for, but can you share some expertise on the Illabuck?
I mean, it's not the Paul Bunyan trophy, but it does have – it's a turtle, which doesn't make sense. It's between Ohio and Illinois, and it has scores written on it from – years that I wasn't alive. So they do, it's a quirky Big Ten trophy that both sides take seriously.
It's a big one, boy. When that one comes up, the room stops. Well, we got a couple of guys who have interesting scenarios right now. One is Penn State, kind of let one loss become two, and all of a sudden UCLA discovered itself. What's your take on these two guys moving forward?
Well, UCLA, I mean, Jerry Neuheisel, you got to be happy for him. Nico gets it together. I was stunned Saturday, though. That's not even the right word. Because I was at the Penn State-Oregon game, and they're a couple plays away from breaking that top 10 trend, and then they turn around and unbelievable. And UCLA gave them every opportunity to get back in the game. I know a lot's been written about Big Ten travel. I know you guys have discussed it as well, but there's no shaking that loss. I mean, it could be program altering for Penn State.
Well, that's a pretty strong statement. I do want to talk about a couple of other programs that are really colliding this weekend, and with all the great matchups. I mean, we talked about the Illabuck. We've talked earlier on in the program about Oregon, Indiana. Nobody's really talking that much about Michigan and USC colliding in Los Angeles. This seems to be a pretty even matchup, at least by sports books and pundits. What do you expect from this one, and what does it mean for both of these schools if they get the win?
I mean, the history's there between all the Rose Bowl matchups, and Michigan, again, has struggled in that matchup out on the West Coast against USC in the past. So I think it'll be a fun game. We'll see how Bryce Underwood does in his third road game. Did not play well against Oklahoma. Played better against Nebraska. Justice Haynes might be the best running back in the country, and they're going to need him in that game. And, I think there's some pressure on USC, given their history against ranked teams in the Big Ten under Lincoln Riley. So I think it's going to be, those sports books are like that for a reason. I think it's a field goal game either way. We picked Michigan, but USC winning that game just the same.
Bill, entering the season, a lot of us were trying to decipher what exactly would be the pecking order for the Big Ten quarterbacks entering the year, and I think there was a lot of hair splitting, a lot of guessing, a lot of uncertainty. As we're approaching halfway through the Big Ten season now, who do you have as the best Big Ten quarterback and quarterbacks, and are they both maybe meeting in Eugene?
I mean, Maiava's good too, and Julian. Julian Saban has a 80% completion percentage. That's wild. But Mendoza and Mora right there at the top of the Heisman voting. I think both guys have played fantastic football. Who knew? I bet if I told you guys 10 years ago, hey, you're going to be a top 10 game, Indiana at Oregon, and everybody in the Big Ten is going to pay attention to us, you guys would have said, what publication do you work for again? It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we might have asked that and a couple other things, Bill. I'm not sure. Well, Michigan State's in an interesting spot. They won their first three and now have lost back-to-back road games. How big is this game with UCLA coming up for them as you look down their schedule?
Well, you got to have it. Obviously, Nico with Jerry Neuheisel was a different team. The reads were working in the running game and the passing game. He does present a unique challenge. He is a five-star quarterback. So that's going to be key on that side of the ball. I think not turning the ball over, getting the running game going. For me, Michigan State, I broke down the Big Ten schedules earlier this week. It really builds up to where are they going to be when they play the Wolverines. The Wolverines haven't, I think this is correct, Dalton, you might correct me, pretty sure the Wolverines haven't won 2 in a row in East Lansing since 05-07, and both of those games were really close. So I think that's the next in front of everybody game the Spartans will have.
No, I think that's completely fair. I'd be remiss, Bill, if I don't go back to your Penn State comment. Maybe program altering. I got 2 questions. The quick, direct follow-up is how so? How do you maybe see that playing out for Penn State?
Well, it feels like Lloyd Carr at Michigan in some ways to me, after the aftermath of Appalachian State, where you knew it wasn't going to be the same. And I don't think his tenure is going to be the same. I get that there's a huge buyout, but that was, in my estimation, one of the worst Big Ten losses in 40 years. I mean, 0-14 hadn't lost to hadn't beat a top 10 team since 1985. So, just the frustration. I was at that Penn State-Oregon game, and you could sense, and you guys have been in stadiums, you can sense frustration. And that's what it was even before that game started. So I can't imagine where they are now. I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. And I don't know how a 9-3 or 8-4 season is going to go over in Happy Valley.
I was going to say the playoff chances seem pretty slim now for Penn State, but overall, Bill, one of the great hypotheticals I feel like that have been tossed about with Penn State here now in recent times is, look, with the expanded playoff, Penn State's almost in the playoff conversation every single year. I know there's some frustration and some talk about James Franklin. If you're Penn State, are you good with maybe being in the playoff conversation every single year? Is that more value? Is it worth disregarding the narrative that he can't win the big game?
You better stop making sense, because that's exactly what you're making. You make complete sense with your point. And I don't know that they'll do that, though. Back to the Lloyd Carr thing. When they left Lloyd, we know what happened next. Rich Rod, Brady Hoke, kind of set the program back for a decade. And that's the risk. If you get rid of James Franklin, who has won 10 or more games each of the last 3 seasons, there's still a shot for them to win 10 or more games this year. And what do we judge that on? Can he get them to the playoff every year versus we know the top 10 record? So I think it's a really tough question that really got brought to light, because I don't think travel or any of those things excuse the loss against UCLA. Maybe excuses a quarter, but I'm not sure you can excuse away that loss.
Well, Bill, as always, it's good to talk to you. It's going to be fun to see how this whole thing plays out. But real quick, are we looking at Ohio State and Oregon at the end of the day? Is that what we're really looking at here?
Well, I mean, then here's the question there. What if they both go 12-0? What's the gain other than not even maybe a bye week? They might both be in the top 4 anyway, other than that Big Ten championship trophy. And I think if that happens, we're going to have that conversation about conference championship games again. But I don't see either one of those teams losing, though I do think Indiana's going to hang around on Saturday against the Ducks.
There you go. Well, Bill, as always, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
There you go. Some of the thoughts from Bill Bender from the Sporting News. And when we come back, our parting shots in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little? But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. That's 800-298-9093.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope. Furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking?
Al-Anon and Alateen can help.
Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm Naheem Hines, professional football player. No matter the challenges I face every day in the NFL, my mom is always there for me, despite her own struggles with muscular dystrophy. And MDA is there for my mom. At their 150 care centers across the U.S., MDA is the leading organization in research and care for kids and adults with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and related neuromuscular diseases. Join me and learn more at helpmda.org today. Thank you.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. Fun show this week as we're heading to the halfway point of the college football season in the Big Ten. So this show had a lot of conversation about what may or may not be going on and what may be in front of us. And with that, it is now time to move on to our parting shots.
And by the way, one of the things we didn't get to earlier on in this one was another sound from that UCLA upset. And if you missed us talking about the UCLA upset with the voice of the Bruins, Josh Lewin, make sure you give us a follow on Twitter or X, whatever you call it. @SportsLifeNow is our name. That's, again, @SportsLifeNow. But one of the sounds we didn't quite get time to get to, and it also symbolizes or illustrates a little bit more of how rushed everything was for UCLA this week. Jerry Neuheisel on a couple of days prep, well, he had a little bit of trouble actually operating on the sideline because of this issue.
But all things you learn from. Like, I hate to say this, but I had never practiced with the headset in terms of, like, the button to talk to the quarterback. So there's, like, multiple times during the game I'm calling the play, but the headset's flipped up because I'm used to being a position coach. And then all of a sudden I'm pressing the wrong part of the button trying to talk to him. Like, it was a mess. Hopefully we'll get that cleaned up by next week. But just one of those days. It just all kind of fell into place.
Well, if that's his biggest problem, I think he's doing pretty good.
I think so, too. It's one of those things you never think about, right? But it was an adjustment for Jerry Neuheisel.
Can you imagine the quarterback at UCLA looking at him, like holding his helmet, like,
put the mic in front of your face.
What do you want me to do? Well, what a great day it was for the Bruins last week against Penn State. Well, my parting shot deals with math. And since you're a numbers guy, you'll like this.
All right.
Okay, we went into this season, I think the fair assessment was that the Big Ten would get 4 Big Ten teams in the playoffs. And I think it's fair to say we know who 2 of them are probably going to be, Ohio State and Oregon. And now you look at who could be the other 2. Does Illinois have to knock off Ohio State this weekend to be one of those people? Is Penn State done after back-to-back conference losses? Can Indiana keep going even if they stub their toe at Oregon this week? Do they have enough to get there? Is it possible if the Big Ten cannibalizes itself coming down the stretch, is it only 3 teams or 2?
It's a big question, and, hey, that's kind of the fun of what the next few weeks are going to be about, Will. We're going to find out some of these answers.
Great drama. Great drama in the Big Ten. Well, as always, we appreciate everybody joining us for this week's show, and we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Teeman, and thanks for your time.